This is the Experience Pros Radio Show. Got an opinion or want to ask us a question? Email radio@experiencepros.com or message us on the Experience Pros Facebook page, and we'll interact with you live on the show.
Oh, boy, will we. We will interact with you live on the show. All you got to do is connect with us. Our Facebook Live video is the best place to do that. Thank you for watching at Experience Pros on Facebook.
We love the interaction. Eric's always commenting. Sometimes I lose him to your comments, but it's all good. It is all good. We know it has never been easier to start a business. And as a result, the startup world has never been more crowded. Our guests say, according to them, lower barriers to entry have led to a more competitive landscape, and entrepreneurs cannot afford to waste time or resources. In their book, Shortcut Your Startup, Speed Up Success with Unconventional Advice from the Trenches, brothers Courtney Reum and Carter Reum offer practical advice for those trying to separate themselves from the pack. Courtney and Carter are former Goldman Sachs investment bankers, turned entrepreneurs, and stars of the syndicated television show Hatched. And with us today, we have Courtney Reum to talk about how to shortcut your startup. Courtney Reum, welcome to the Experience Pros Radio Show.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Courtney, it is fantastic having you on the program. Listen, how crowded is the startup landscape today?
Well, I think it's just safe to say it's more crowded than ever before, since the barriers to entry are incredibly low, and everyone and their mother seems to want to start something.
And everybody is, and we all can, and it's so easy to get started. But what is it that it really takes to make it through? And how do we know when we finally... Actually, at what point are we no longer a startup? How do we know that? Are you there?
I always say, but I'm pretty sure someone else said it first. Ideas are cheap, execution is dear. And so we've tried to write a book that talks a lot about execution, because a lot of people are sitting on the couch with an idea, but they don't really know how to go about doing it.
Okay.
And I think, as a startup, I think startup's a great term, because you can be a pretty big company and kind of have that startup mindset, or you can be a pretty small company and not have that startup mindset. So we think it's a lot more about the way you do things and the way the ecosystem and technology and society is evolving. So that's what we kind of mean by startup. It's not necessarily a particular size.
Okay, so you talk, exclusively about startups, and you've got a phrase called the startup switch up. What does that mean? And give us an example of that in action.
Sure. I think we use startup switch up to kind of mean a lot of things we talk about in our book. I think it's a lot of new ideas, and then also a lot of ideas that we've learned from other people that are hopefully just packaged differently, because we live in a world where there is no shortage of information out there, but how you digest it, synthesize it, and then do something with it is really hard. So we call them startup switch ups, because they are things that we think are maybe a little counterintuitive to how business has always been done, but the world is changing at such a fast pace that we think we have a few of these, I wouldn't quite call them contrarian ideas, but things that buck the norm. So just to give you one example, we have a chapter that's called something along the lines of do what you do best and outsource the rest. In the olden days, people used to have a bunch of different lines of business, and they have things they're really good at, things they're pretty good at, and things they're just okay at. We believe in the world we live in now that's hyper competitive and hyper specialized. If you have something that you don't have an unfair advantage in and that you're not best in class, you shouldn't be doing it, because there's just no place for there's good, better, and best, and good probably doesn't cut it anymore. So that's an example of a startup switch up that we espouse.
I like it. We hear that too. Too many times entrepreneurs want to wear all the hats. And so we are the bottleneck to our own business growing, to our own business scaling. It's taking us too much time, energy, and resources of stuff that we're not good at. So I love that. A chapter in the book, do what you do best and outsource the rest. And I love that you're just kind of flipping traditional advice on its head. And so what if we're like one of those old dogs, where, maybe a baby boomer
from the olden days
wanting to do a startup? What kind of advice would you have for this older generation?
Sure. I think, again, I think it's as much about a mindset as it's a psychographic more than a demographic. But sure, I think a millennial that grew up using technology is probably more predisposed than a baby boomer, and they probably have a little steeper learning curve. But, for us, again, just repeat, the tools are out there now. The things, even if you personally don't have any money or don't think you have money, there are so many different places to find money now. And there are so many easier ways to start a business that those things have been somewhat democratized and the barriers to entry are lower. So it's really about, we like to say, time is the new money, and it's easy to say if you have money, but even if you don't, time is really the new money. So, for an older set, I would really encourage, our first chapter is just called Get in the Trenches. So I think it's just really about immersing yourself in things, because the information is out there. How you get it and what you do with it is really hard. And the other thing that I think is different than the mindset that most people used to have back in the day is that I would say most baby boomers, to paint with a broad brush, we used to live in this world of like trade secrets, right? The trade secret of Coca-Cola's recipe or what's in the Colonel's KFC. But now we live in such a transparent, open sourced kind of world that we're really big believers in. There's not that many new ideas out there unless you're Elon Musk, and not that many trade secrets. So better to be inclusive, share ideas, have transparency, and see if you can kind of build something that's that's almost like crowdsourced rather than doing it yourself.
We're big fans of collaboration. Our guest is Courtney Reum. He's the co-founder of M13, a brand development and investment company accelerating the business at the nexus of consumer products, technology, and media. His book, Shortcut Your Startup, two brothers getting together to write this thing out, and they know what they're talking about, folks. Courtney, where would you like our listeners to not only pick up a copy of your book, but to follow you and your brother?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you asking. So you can definitely get our book on Amazon, every other place that books are sold. It's available now. Shipping January 16th. Also, we'd love people to find us on our website, which is shortcutyourstartup.com. And then lastly, people are always welcome to reach out when they have ideas or questions through our website, m13.co.
Shortcut Your Startup. That's the book, shortcutyourstartup.com. It's filled with personal anecdotes and real life advice. It's broken down into 10 key startup switch ups. So if you are in this phase, they're going to flip traditional advice on its head, give you pre-launch investigation tips, strategies for running and scaling your business, and then how to know when to exit your business. How important is that, Courtney, to be thinking about exiting your business when you start up?
Yeah, I think there's not much that's more important, in the sense that we saw about 1,000 businesses last year through our network and through M13. And the headline of our chapter, our startup switch up on that exiting, is, a successful company doesn't necessarily equate to a successful exit. And it almost doesn't matter the size. I just saw a business last week that got to 20-something million in sales. And the guy was shocked that there was no buyer for it. And I said, frankly, I'd be shocked if you had a buyer, because it was 20-something of what I perceived to be very non-value add, non-strategic sales. And I didn't really know who would buy it. And when I asked him and dug deeper, he couldn't really give me good answers. And I said, if you can't give me good answers, imagine if you're a strategic buyer trying to justify this. So it's incredibly important. It doesn't mean you have to sell, but it means you have to make every decision with that in mind.
Courtney Reum, thank you so much for joining us on the Experience Pros Radio Show. We appreciate your time. And folks, we appreciate you for tuning in to this, the home of positive business talk. Angel Tussey and I will be back right after these messages. We are here to empower you to build your brand on the radio.
The Experience Pros, revolutionizing the way people treat people in business.
About jobs, the Dow soared above the 25,000 mark for the first time ever today. All the major averages closing at fresh record highs.